Clint, you can unmute. We need you to be unmuted. All right, then.
That'll be my 2 hours. We'll just sit in silence.
This is all I've got to say.
That's all I have to say about that.
Jesus' joke book, he should have just written 5,000 words of ha 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 ha.
It was close.
Right. All right, I'll hand it over to our host, who is in bed.
As usual. Yeah. Okay, so normally what we do first is read out a short prayer, Clint, so we'll just start with that. This is lesson 225. God is my Father, and his Son loves him. Father, I must return your love for me, for giving and receiving are the same, and you have given all your love to me. I must return it, for I want it mine in full awareness, blazing in my mind and keeping it within its kindly light. Inviolate, beloved, with fear behind and only peace ahead. How still the way your loving Son is led along to you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Clint. So all we need from you, Clint, is your entire history of your life. Just your story about how your spiritual journey perhaps began, and then what led you on to A Course in Miracles, and any trials and tribulations you had along the way that you'd like to share with us. Because we're all on different parts of our journey going nowhere, so we'd like to hear how you handled things and what you did in your journey, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. So I want to know. I was wondering how far back to go. I'd like to consolidate it so that we can have a two-way discussion. I was born no, I'm kidding.
No, that's all right. But tell us when you were born.
No, actually, I was born breech. I was born breech on a Air Force base, and my mom and I both nearly died. So that's how it went for a long time. I had a pretty rough childhood. Different step parents I had pretty bad problems with, and I moved around a lot, so I was always in fights with all the kids at school because you'd be the new kid, and you'd have to prove yourself. And I don't know, I started getting into like a lot of drugs and alcohol, like towards the last half of high school, probably. So I probably dealt with that until I was like about 30. And then I was pretty bad. Like I was thinking about it earlier today, and I would consider that I think I had demons, right? Even from the time I was kind of little, because it seemed like everywhere I went, like I was in trouble, and there was always problems, and people were violent towards me, and even in the schools and the principals and the teachers, the whole 9 yards, seemed like the whole world was always against me, right? And so it was really tough, and I felt like out of place in the world, and I felt that the world was my enemy, and that it was out to get me, and that it was a struggle, and I was a victim, and that whole mindset that goes with that. I basically would call it hell today. And I used the drugs and alcohol because it would like turn off my super ego, and I could like have fun and be around people and stuff like that, because I had so much emotional pain when I wasn't on that. Like I was my position towards the world was as much resistance towards the world and God and the universe, the whole thing, as much as you could get. I was always in a battle all the time, right? and and I didn't like battles. I wanted things to be like calm and cool and just go. You know, I felt like I was just like going along, and everybody was just like attacking me for no reason. That's how the world occurred to me. And in my sleep, I couldn't get away from it. In my sleep, I had demons chasing me, like big green demons and stuff that chased me, and and that just went on for years. You know, and it just escalated and escalated and escalated, and even after, like, I quit drinking, you know, like 1999 or something, and like even years after I quit drinking, I still had all of this stuff going on, you know. So I think I think I was trying to cover up that stuff, like self-medicate or something. I was trying to cover that stuff up because I had no other way. I had no other way out. The only thing I could do was just, like, you know, numb it or whatever, and take some acid or something, go to a different world, you know. So that was like my earlier life. That's before, like, I tried different spiritual programs and stuff like that, and rehabs, even, you know, whatever. I tried things. I tried lots of things, and the whole time, this whole time, uh, I'm also an autodidact, like a self-taught person. So even during all of that junk going on, I would read like between 1 and 5 books a day. Like, I completed the whole psychology section, the whole investing section, the whole real estate section of libraries, because I would read so much. I couldn't sleep that much, but about the only comfort in the whole world that I got was like reading, and so I did a ton of reading, and one of my favorite things to read was things like psychology, but I also liked you know, the big book, and I read the Bible, and you know, read kind of Wayne Dyer, read a ton of Wayne Dyer, read all these different people, but I'd never heard of the Course in Miracles at this point, right? And so I read all those things, and, you know, I'd read the psychology books, and they just kind of like didn't know what was going on. And I would read, you know, and they had their experiments and stuff, but I think psychology.
At this point in the meeting, we lost Clint for a moment.
I think my headset went to sleep.
It was from where you said that sentence, psychology, you know, they just didn't know anything.
Oh,
from there.
Well, that's good. Yeah, because I wasn't paying attention to anything on the screen.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, they just seem to be in their infancy to me. They can't tell you things that they need to tell you. You know, people told me, well, then just go ahead and kill yourself when I was suicidal. And, you know, I had been on suicide hotlines and stuff like that, and they'll never tell you such a thing. But when the person said that, it made me see things differently, and then I didn't want to, right, at the time. So there's a lot of things that I think that are in the course that that psychology can't say, and that are really kind of like outside of their realm. When I first started reading the course, to me, I like didn't like God. I couldn't stand to hear the word Jesus. I thought it was all hocus pocus, you know. So it was really hard for me to read. I could do the lessons, but it was really hard for me to read the book. But that's getting ahead of myself just a little bit too much. So I studied the psychology for, you know, years and years and years, but, you know, probably well over a decade, maybe close to 2 decades. And it never really did anything for me, you know. I could have all that knowledge, and it just like wouldn't, it never helped. I still had all of my emotional problems, and I had all of these demons still chasing me, and I still had all of those problems. So I took some interferon for Hep C back in early 2000s. I took a course of that, and it caused me to have one of the side effects, even on the thing, said murderous thoughts, and I was like, what the hell is that, right? But I noticed, like, and this was like at the end of my treatment, I went to like 7-Eleven to pick up, you know, a Coke or something, and this guy had parked wrong, and I just like I just like went after him, and I was gonna kill him. And I thought, well, I guess that's a murderous thought. But at the same time, I had descended into hell, and the hell that I was in is in the What Dreams May Come movie, where he's swimming through a sea of like skulls and dead people. That was the hell I was in. That was what I saw. Like the world was attacking me, and it was so bad that what I literally saw in an empty room was that sea of skulls and everything. It was like superimposed onto everything. And at that point, I thought I'd completely lost my mind. So I had a doctor who was also the one who was helping me with the Hep C, but he was also a friend. So I went to him and I said, dude, you got to check me into the rubber room, because I'm seeing all these skulls and everything, and I'm having murderous thoughts, and I'm freaking out. So he said, well, he's like, I don't know, maybe go try AA and see what happens. So I hadn't even, like, mind you, I hadn't been drinking for like a long time. And so I said, you know what? I had fun there. I met some people when I used to go, so I'll go over there. Well, I went over there and I met two people. One, I met a sponsor, and I met a neurologist who's a friend of mine now. And those two people kind of started an actual spiritual journey that actually like went somewhere, started to work. And my sponsor taught me how to like surrender and let go and turn it all over to God, right? And I thought I was doing that, like I'd known about those words. I had known those words for, I don't know, probably 10 years or 12 years. I'd known about turn it over to God and all this, but I kind of, somehow my ego twisted those words to mean a different action than actually turning it over to God. So I would think that I was turning it over or something like that, but I was still just going on and trying to control everything, right? And but I don't know, I was talking to him, and he must have told me to do it like 50 times in 15 minutes. And finally I just stopped for a minute. I'm like, you keep saying to let it go, but I like told you that I let it go. He's like, dude, you haven't let anything go. You're still like all over this thing. And so I was like, okay, wait. So you're saying just like don't care about this thing and just like let God handle it? And he's like, yeah. And so I tried it just for a second. I was like, and I called it like not caring about it. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just like give this to God and I'll let him not care about it, and let me see what happens. And I felt this like amazing amount of pressure and stress and all of my pain and everything disappear, like just for that instant. And I was like, I knew I had found something, right? So then I just became addicted to that because I'm completely OCD. So I let everything and turned everything over to God, and I didn't care. And I did that to the best of my ability, as much as I possibly could, for, like at least a year, kind of before I'd even found the course. And my friend, the neurologist, where he comes back into this, like every day we would talk about like turning everything over to God, and allowing things and surrendering things. And we would try these things, just we'd come on some topic and we just keep trying it. And we seemed to be following like it followed an order, just like the course lessons follow an order, but when you do them is up to you. So I do believe that there's like a, from you take these steps to get out, and you get over here. But some people, take them forever, and it takes them like forever to do one of those things, uh, people say they've done the course and then they're like making everything mean something, you know, the fifth time they've done the lessons, you know. So I think there is, you have to do each of those lessons. That's why they're in there. And it says when you take it is up to you. So I think each individual person may have whatever it takes for them to get like each one of those lessons, you know. And I don't think I've gotten all the lessons. I've gotten a lot of them, and they happen when they happen, you know. But they do seem to happen. They do seem to like build on each other. In other words, you don't get this one way over here until you've gotten like this one here. Like this one clicks, and you can see it too, like in groups, you know, even online, you can watch it. Like you know, that person is like working on, you know, they're working on a certain lesson. You can see it. That's all they talk about, you know, and it could be lesson 259 or something, or it could be lesson 12. But you'll watch and people exhibit like they're teaching what they need to learn. You can just watch them like doing the same lesson over and over. And it's pretty rad when you see them actually like that lesson clicks. Somebody will say some random thing or something and that'll just like click and boom, that person, you never hear it out of them again. And that happens for me too. It's like when the miracle happens for that lesson, it's like, I just like that thing doesn't mean anything to me anymore. I just like, I'm next, you know? So as far as the course goes, I started with my friend. We did the lessons. We did the lessons together. We didn't peek, and we hadn't read the book, right? So we had no idea what to expect as we did these lessons. And in the meantime, over here, I'm going to a therapist, like trying to get my crap together, you know. But he was into like surrendering stuff too. So, anyways, I'm doing the course. You know, we're maybe on like a lesson, I don't know, first 100 lessons or something like that. And I'm on my way to my therapist. And you know, the stuff is pretty intellectual for me at this point. But I'm doing my therapist meeting on Thursday or whatever it was, and all of a sudden it clicked, like something clicked, right? And just I'm driving my car and just complete blinding white light, like I can't drive. I've got to like pull my car over, and it's just like light rushing in, light rushing in, light rushing in, and what this lesson was for this particular light episode was that these people, it wasn't what the people were doing that was bothering me. It was the fact that I was rejecting what they were doing, and that's what had caused all of my suffering. It was the way I reacted to them, and that's the way to say it in plain English. But of course, this thing gets delivered, you know, in a blinding white episode, like basically almost knocks me out, you know. And I consider that to be like Jesus directly drilling that shit in my brain, because I had been begging for it. I had been begging for it for years. And when he did that, I called that episode, when I was finished with it, I called it wholesale forgiveness, because not a person in my life was guilty of anything after that point. Like I couldn't see it. And I could see how that readjusted the time, because, you know, it's like these miracles, you know, they alter time or whatever, right? And I could see how this had altered my whole entire history, which is how we experience time. You know, I see things that happened in the past, and so it completely altered my past, and then it obviously altered my future as well as I saw it. Because after that, like I couldn't really like make people guilty, like even Hitler, like I just couldn't, I like didn't have the ability, right? Because I could see that everything that was people were doing was for their own best interest. But I saw it for myself first, that all of these people who were like all mean to me or beat me up or throwing me out on the street or whatever they did to me, I saw that they all did it for my own best interest, so that I could learn the lesson that I learned at that very second. You know, I could see how it was all laid out perfectly for me to learn that thing. And you know, strangely enough, I mean, you know, I'm getting chills from it. Strangely enough, when I show up to the therapist, I finally like wake up enough to like drive my car over to the therapist. It's still pretty like white bad, but I get over to the therapist's office, and he's got this like bell that you ring, and you just like sit in the front office and you don't even know if he like heard or whatever, you know. So I'm sitting there and I'm having this this life episode is starting to like fade, but the like lesson is, you know, deepening. And there's like this radio playing in the background, like really soft, you know, but it's like going, so you could listen to it while you're waiting on the guy. So anyways, I sit there for like 2 hours and the guy never comes out. I think I even pushed the button again. The guy never comes out. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm done with therapy, you know. I don't know why he's not here, you know, and I had this episode, so like I'll just take off and maybe I'll hear from him again or something. I don't know, I don't care. And so as I grab the door, the song Sad Eyes starts playing, and the first line of Sad Eyes is looks like it's over. You know, and you knew there'd come a day, and it was just so funny because it was like the end of my relationship with my therapist, or any therapist for that matter. I didn't need him because the problem had been resolved. The one that had caused all of my suffering, everything was resolved in that moment. Now, that doesn't mean that that was like the end of my learning, but at that time, that resolved my real issue that was causing all of my upset. You know, I thought that if I wanted to boil it down, I thought people should behave differently, and I was wrong. They needed to behave the way that they behaved so that I could get what I got to get where I am today. And I think I'll probably just like kind of kill it right there, and then we'll see. We'll see if we want to talk about the future stuff or see where the conversation goes. So thanks.
Hey, thanks, Clint. I've got a question. I'm sure it didn't occur to you, but it occurs to me when you're talking about it. I'd be thinking, why did it take so long? Why do I have to suffer all these years? But I guess that you're coming from a position now where you don't, it's all changed, so you don't even see it like that. Yeah.
Well, I asked that question for a long time, for sure. Like, but I you know, I don't know. I guess it was resolved in that moment, right? Like I needed all of those things. What was best for me was I needed all of that crap to do all of those things, because I basically, like, I say it's because I was stubborn, right? I think it was because I was stubborn, and I thought I knew better. I got a real high IQ, so, you know, I kind of did know better than the people around me, but I didn't know better than God. But I kind of thought I did, right? And I think that's what the ego's always doing. But as far as but you know, in that lesson, I realized all of the suffering was just me being a dick. It was not. The suffering wasn't God's fault. The suffering was nobody else's fault, and the reason it took so long is because I made it take so long, because I decided for it to take so long, you know. And you know, there is a certain innocence in that. There's a certain naivety and a certain innocence in that, right? My naivety told me that I was doing it right. My naivety told me that I was right and that I was doing it right, and I was doing the right thing, right? Because I looked around me and other people were doing it that way too, but like everybody's crazy. So, but my innocence my innocence allowed me to be naive enough to think that I knew what was going on, right? That I thought that I could judge, right? And so that helps me to understand why other people, like why it takes what it takes for other people, because they've got a particular thing that they believe is true and they need to resolve that, and they're probably going to suffer from it, but that they have to learn that lesson, otherwise it won't stick, as far as I'm concerned. Like I don't think the suffering is required, but then again, on the other hand, I felt like I needed it. I felt like I needed to go through that to see how bad what actually I was really doing. Do you see what I mean? What I was really doing is I was making myself suffer by saying that God was wrong, if I wanted to boil it down. And it took what it took for me to understand that that position was false. That position was not true. It was not tenable. It was mad. It was it couldn't be real. It couldn't happen. So I did, up until that day, I did ask why it took so long and why so much pain and everything. But in that moment, that part was resolved for me. That question was resolved for me. It was just part of the light episode, I guess.
Okay. I've got another question now. Let's say you've got like a stepfather or someone who you had a real grievance against. It, he did something awful to you, whatever.
Yeah.
When you had this light episode or whatever it was, did it change actual memory or just change how you just saw it differently? What?
It changed it. It changed it. It changed him. It changed who he was for me. It changed who I saw him as, because all we do is see images of people. It changed who he was for me. It changed what his role was for me. It changed what actually it changed to me. It changed what appeared it happened, because I saw it from a different point of view, right? I saw that even the times like he yelled or hit me or whatever, I saw that was coming from a place of love, right? If a person is completely misguided and they are, they're doing whatever they're doing to me, right? What they don't understand is that them doing that is part of a plan for me. Do you see what I'm saying? It was like a requirement for him to do what he did for me to wake up, and he never made me suffer no matter what he did to me. He wasn't the cause of my suffering. The cause of my suffering was my rejection of the universe at all, including his behavior. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, I've got another question, Clint. Now, let's say if you sort of revisited these people at different times, or do you notice the difference in, like, I'm not sure how to say this. Are they responding to you differently?
No, they're whole different people. They're not even the people. First of all, the person that I thought they were was somebody I had made in my mind. And then one of the coolest things, like, this is what gets me addicted to, like, to the work, right? This is what gets me addicted to surrendering. When I see them completely different, they are different. It's not like they're the same thing. It happens instantaneously. When I actually literally forgive someone completely, they're a whole different person. They're not even the person, like, either it's because I didn't ever see them in the first place, or because of, I make my own world. I kind of don't particularly care underneath, but yes, they are everybody is a completely different person, including my wife, than I ever knew them to be. So I don't believe that I have surrendered it or had a miracle until I see the environment shift. That's how I can tell that I've surrendered it completely to God, because the environment will shift in alignment with my forgiveness. That's like literally how I measure it. If the environment doesn't reflect it, I didn't change. I'm just bullshitting myself as far as I'm concerned. Because once I'm completely, and I have theories about it, and they're in the course and stuff like that, but I would call it harmony and unity, right? And you might call it like joining with God's will. When I've totally surrendered my position and my perception and my whole take on it, when I've totally surrendered it, I'm now completely, because I started with, I was rejecting the universe or God or the world or whatever you want to call it. I was rejecting that. That's the position that I started in, and that's why I was in hell, because now I've made the world and the universe and God my enemy, right? But once I fully surrendered it, now all of a sudden I am on the side of God and the universe and other people, and like I'm like now in harmony with the entire universe. And when I'm in harmony, it just, it's synchronicity. The thing, it's just miraculous. It's constant miraculous when I'm fully surrendered. But I can take it back up again, and I could just decide, like I broke my foot, and I think for 2 minutes I thought, it shouldn't have been this way. I was pissed off about breaking my foot, but literally it was like 2 minutes, and like instantly it switched back around, and and then within a day I realized that I had picked up some past that I had not fully surrendered, and that I was obsessed with that past, which are early lessons. I was preoccupied with the past, and that breaking of the foot told me that I couldn't let go of the past, right? And then when I broke the foot, like that was breaking with the past as I saw it in the way that I had been seeing it over the past, who knows how long, whatever was left that I hadn't surrendered got triggered by breaking that foot. Unlike how to surrender, I was able to, it brought it to my consciousness. So indeed, the world changes as I change. Absolutely. 100%. And people get healed, and I get healed, like physically and mentally. Like last year, I dropped Hep C. Like the chemo and all that crap didn't work, but last year Hep C just disappeared off of something that I surrendered in a miracle, right? So that just like my whole body has been healed from car accidents and everything else, from things from forgiving. I don't know what's going to get healed when I forgive the next thing, but there's a good chance something will get healed.
I've got a silly question now. When you had your light episode, what number lesson was that?
I don't think I know. I don't
damn.
know. I could just guess, and I don't know if I was really working a lesson at that time. It would have been awesome to know, right? I don't even know. I know I was doing lessons, and I was on a lesson, but strangely, how when you first start, like some people are different, but when I first started working them, I was like really jazzed up and stuff. But by like 100 or something, I don't know. You kind of aren't doing them every second, or you know what I mean. You're not as like into it, so, and doing them like checking every 5 minutes. I had like an alarm for. I bought like a watch that would go off like at predetermined times, so I could like remember, because I was so scatterbrained I couldn't remember crap. So I had the watch like vibrate on my hand to remind me to like represence the lesson. But that battery wore out pretty fast, and so I don't know. It's flaky, but give me like 1 second, and let me see if I can access what the lesson might have been. I think the one key coming to my mind. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. And I don't know what number that is, but I think that was definitely, it was right around there. So I got to look that up. Anybody know the lesson by heart?
Oh, it's in the early lessons, but I'm not sure exactly where it is.
Let me see. I can look it up. 30.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, I mean, like that early, that's amazing. That makes me smile because I thought I knew that I was having things going on that were positive, but they felt as if like it was something that I did. But that one was obviously something that I didn't do. You know, I didn't decide, well, I'm going to have this light episode and like, you know, whack me over the brain really hard. I didn't do that. You know, I understand that it is me and that I'm not separate from that. I understand that today. But at the time, you know, I would have never attributed it to me. And I did, in fact, attribute it to Jesus and still do today. And then I found out, like, here's an interesting thing. I found out, wow, I had forgotten about this. I had a resentment against love and against Jesus and against God and all of that stuff. I found out that I didn't like love, right? In other words, like people are out there, oh, I want to be loved. And the people who had loved me had beat on me and stuff like that. They had betrayed me and hurt me and put me down and everything. So I didn't want to have nothing to do with love. But you know, of course, I wanted like a girlfriend and all that stuff. But the love, like not that special relationship stuff, like love as an actual love, I was afraid of it, and not only was I afraid of it, I hated it. And that included light episodes up until this point. So as I was trying to read these lessons, I'm also reading the book, and the book is just jamming me with what I felt was painful, right? I thought it was painful. I wanted to resist it. I thought it was hate. But here's the odd thing. Really what was happening is the book was shocking me with light episodes. As I would read the book, it was shocking me with light episodes and stuff like that each and every time. And when I winced, when I read the word Jesus or Holy Spirit or God, when I winced, what I was wincing from was the light and the love that was being transmitted to me, right? And then when I started to read the, after it flipped with this wholesale forgiveness, I had forgiven those things as well, right? So now I could read the course, and it was pure bright white and bright white light, and all of those words still did the love thing and still did the pure bright white thing and the whole, like, you know, shock your brain kind of thing. But I loved that and I enjoyed that and I wanted that at that point, after that switch in perception, right? Or I had forgiven it, right? I had forgiven my resentment against love was the same as my resentment against myself and my mother and my stepfather and my stepmother, and you know, the resentment was the same resentment. It was just took on a new form every day. Great question, thank you.
I think Anna Lee has a question. She's got her hand up there.
Okay.
Anna Lee, do you want to?
Yeah, thanks. Clint, fantastic. Really enjoyed listening to your retelling of your purification journey, and I really resonate with it. I feel like, you know, you are another reflection of the knowing or the understanding of what can be required for some personalities, including my own, to really let go and surrender and hand it over. And you know, it seems like the number of people who've had that kind of shift an awakening experience in my own sort of reality and world is really multiplying, and I'm meeting more and more people, and I'm seeing it as a reflection of sort of where I'm going or where I'm at. I too had a seemingly extremely harsh experience from childhood, right through to now, pretty much.
Mhm.
And yeah, what I'm getting from your retelling, and also, from Kate's and other people who've been on this particular ego destroying journey, is yes, it can take a very, very harsh form seemingly, but it's all in the mind, and the ego has been so determined and strong and vicious in order to maintain its control, that sometimes horrific kind of experiences like a car accident, which I had 2 years ago, and I had another one 10 years ago, and I had a fractured skull, and all sorts of stuff. And in order for that part of my mind to actually be dissolved, there needed to be some pain, and a lot of pain and suffering, for me to finally make that decision that there has to be another way. And I feel inspired that, things are still pretty difficult for me, but I feel at least that I'm awake to the truth that I suppose this journey is part of, it can be lifetime after lifetime, the serial dream of horrors, and people doing things to me and each other.
Mhm.
But I just love what you said about, well, it was all done in love, and on the
Yeah.
level of form, in terms of, soul contracts or whatever, which I do see now as still the dream.
Mhm.
But I suppose it can be another level of the dream where we can have some more insights and understandings of why we are here and why we do these things to each other. We're actually doing them for each other. Even Hitler. That can be absolutely impossible for some minds to grasp that concept. And it was for me 20 years ago, but now I'm starting to get it. And so I'm wondering sort of how long it took for you, or what you noticed when the green demons started dissolving, like the Wicked Witch in Wizard of Oz. That's sort of the image that
Yeah.
came to me then.
Yeah. It was a big green and black monster. Like, God, scariest thing you could think of. I relate it to Satan, and there's Prince of Darkness had a fluid in there, was like green black, that was like similar colors and stuff. So that was pretty cool. But what lifted that? So since you're talking about surrender, what lifted that, besides surrendering everything in the world? I also started surrendering in my dreams, right? And there was a story about a rabbit. It's like a Buddhist story. There's a story about this rabbit that that offers up its life so that the monk could have dinner that night, right? So he like rolls over and offers his belly, I guess, so that the monk could have dinner. And it was it was a sacrifice. It was a surrendering, right? And then that's the rabbit in the moon, I guess. They call that the rabbit in the moon. So anyways, I had learned that lesson. So then definitely within a week, I had a dream. It wasn't just a green demon. Like, I had like medieval people chasing me, and I had like, this particular night, I had a tiger chasing me, and I was a rabbit. And I knew exactly what to do, right? And so I just rolled over and I let the tiger get me, right? And I wouldn't have before. I would have always ran away. I would have always been in fear. I would, you know, so I let the tiger eat me. Well, when the tiger ate me, I didn't die. I watched the tiger have a meal. You know, I watched the tiger not starve that day, and I gave that to that tiger. So that was the first dream where I learned to surrender to the thing that I was afraid of, which is a central theme in the Course of Miracles as far as I'm concerned. The thing that I'm afraid of, I'm always fighting and resisting. And instead today, the thing that I'm afraid of, I go towards, I run towards it, right? Because I know that if I'm afraid of it, I have a resentment towards it, or I have a judgment against it. And if I really want to find things to forgive, like if forgiveness offers me everything I want, then I'm on a mission to go find things to forgive, right? And I've hidden them all from myself. So I let that demon get me, and I let the medieval guy bash me over the head with a mace. And in each and every case, the body died, but I watched right at the last second, right at that very last second. You know, I like closed my eyes and hit me with the hammer, right? And at that very last second of doing that surrender, he hit the thing with the hammer, but I felt no pain. And I also experienced myself watching it rather than being a body. And I did that several times, and the ego just never tried it again, right? Once it knew that it didn't get me with that, it was over. And it probably didn't take a month. And I'd suffered from it for definitely 20 years. Definitely 20 years. Like all the time. You know, so long answer. Hopefully it provided something.
No, great. Fantastic. Yeah, what just came to mind was I had sort of a phase of these experiences where I would seemingly accidentally pour boiling hot water on my hand. But I would just go vertical, and it's sort of like there's a combination of that will to surrender. That part of the mind actually has to seemingly make a decision to surrender to the highest intelligence. And that highest intelligence is, you know, we talk about it symbolically as vertical. So I didn't experience any pain. There was a slight twitch at the beginning where I kind of got the message, well, I can choose pain now and suffering, or I can choose for it to be neutral. And it was, yeah, amazing. And I had, before I came to A Course in Miracles, I worked really diligently with a spiritual healing teaching through Bruno Gruning. And he had actually had the experience as a child where, you know, his family rejected him. He was one of 7 children. He was bashed by his brothers and his father, and he had a gift. I mean, later on in history, he had 30,000 people coming to him for healings, which he was just a tool for God for in Germany. But his brother poured a boiling pot of hot coffee over his head, and nothing happened.
Wow.
Yeah, and you know, and it was after that the family stopped picking on him. Like, they knew that, you know, little Bruno was different, you know. He was invulnerable. So so it's like, okay, well, that really is the truth. And at the same time, you know, having this human experience, it's okay to I suppose speak one's truth for where you're at the time. You may have to talk to someone who's paying out on you or whatever, but ultimately that other mind is you, and you made, you know, an agreement that you would do this together to help each other wake up. So I can just feel that love right now, and joining with you and everyone, like just doing this and talking about this and joining. But yeah, the light's flooding through now, just talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
could totally feel it. I was crying while you were talking. So I got
I want to say something that
it.
Clint reminded me of when he was talking about going to the shrink and then not going back. I just remembered I went, I went into a rehab and I stayed about 12 days because I realized, if I got to stay sober, I got to do it on my own anyway. So my parents wanted me to go to a shrink. So I went to a shrink and he was asking me all these questions and he asked me about my heroin addiction. And he did something about, shooting dope. And I said, I never shot dope. I only snorted it. And he looked at me and said, "You can't get a habit from snorting heroin."
Oh shit.
That was it. That was the last time I
Yeah.
saw that
Okay.
guy.
I'll see you, dude. Yeah, their intentions are really good, and I'm not going to dog on it because the intention, everything. Um, David Hawkins talks about this, and he puts everything on these like scales. And the deal with the therapists generally, if it's a real good therapist, and if they're if they have real good intents and they're really well put together, they're going to be on the Hawkins scale in the 400s. And what that generally is the 400s represent logic and reason. So I may go to a therapist look, if I'm like I have no logic and reason and I go to a therapist, I might pick up something. He may help sort things out using logic and reason, and reasons in the course is a vital thing, right? But the Course in Miracles is about love, and that is beyond reason. I had to give up. I had to give up all of my reason, and I'm a software engineer and an engineer basically my whole life, and to give up reason for me was really, really difficult. But I couldn't get what I called I couldn't really love at all until I had given up on I had totally surrendered reason. And how I did that was I realized that reason is awesome, but you have to input things into the logical equations. And if you put garbage into the logical equations, what you get is garbage out, right? So in the 400s, in logic and reason, the scientist doesn't realize that he's putting garbage into it. He's putting his judgments of things into the equation, and therefore the output that comes out of the equation is a judgment. And so it's just garbage in, garbage out. And to get to love and to totally surrender fear, even for an instant, required me to give up on logic and reason to do such a thing. And so I'm not bashing on therapists because they're gonna help you work things out logically for sure, if they're good ones. And mine was completely clueless, like Ted said. He was good and bad. He was good when I started and didn't work at all when I was done.
So, Clint, that's one of those, that light episode that really turned you around from, I'm wrong, and projecting like, everything should be different and everyone should be different.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like a really full turnaround. It wasn't just a glimpse. That was a total turnaround. So in that instant, because everything was changed, so all your relationships, so did you have residues, sort of say, like you sort of spoke, your wife was, like you said, I mean, I know with my mum, I don't have the same mother anymore because I haven't had unfortunately, I haven't had that total turnaround, but there's been stuff cleaned out of my mind. So there's definitely concepts that aren't there that are, made that image of that person, seem to be a certain way. And so I have a totally new mother because something's been removed from my mind. So I was going to say, was there any residue of that, like, say, with some of, the ongoing, relationships that you're dealing with every day, or was it really kind of all just taken away and, it is really just going from black and white to color and staying in color?
Well, I think that's multifaceted. Indeed, the past had been completely healed. Like those were different people. They were people that I hated. Now they were people that I loved, right? So what? That's in the book, but until it happens, like, it's all a concept, right? And yes, they indeed full on change to completely different people. But I had given the resentment away to them, but like you said, there was some residue that was still in my broken foot, right? It was not on them at all, right? It was fears that I was currently generating, that I may have been generating over and over and over again, but it was not on anybody else. It was a fear that I was presencing today, right? And that particular foot one, the fear was like my whole life has changed completely different. My money, my health, all of my relationships, like everything is completely and radically different, to the point like I kind of can't believe that it's going so good, right? So I was poor and lived on the street and homeless and stealing to get like a little bag of ham for 3 days or something, like starving and like I don't want to go back there, right? And so so the abundance, as I forgive, like the things just roll in or whatever, and things just like work out, and like as I listen to Holy Spirit tells me what to do, it works out, and the more it works out, the more it builds on itself. But there's still that foot thing there was a part of me that felt like maybe I have to go back through that again or something. Like, I don't want to go back through that. I had judged it. And I think you're right. It was a shadow from the past, or you used a great word for it. It was just a reflection, that I carried today.
Residue.
Residue. Yeah. It was like a residue. It's not like this like totally present thing. It was just like, something that you had to wipe off of your car, but like I had to break my foot to notice that it was even there. It's like you're looking through your glasses and they're not dark. There's spots on it. There's water spots on them, right? Residue. Really good word for it. But there was this whole, I had to, like, after I had forgiven all those people, I then had to deal with all the crap that I had generated by judging all those people. So yes, there was like a few years where I had to deal with my own crap about I had taken full responsibility, right? I had taken responsibility for all my suffering and all my pain. Well, just because I took responsibility doesn't mean I'm going to stop creating it for myself, right? So I had to like forgive all of that crap for like another few years before and I think it was premature, but well, I'm wrong, but revelation during that period, revelation actually like happened, right? And then there was revelation, and then I had to deal with revelation, right? And actually,
Because that was a bit more of a mind blower.
it's ridiculous. Yeah, we talk about like, oh yeah, I'm like buddies, you're me and I'm you and we're all one and all that crap. I said that for years, and until that shit really happens to you, it's still a concept. And but then there's like integration. That's when Ted showed up, I stumbled in a desert for a while. I could not relate to anybody or anything for like a couple years. I still could like work and stuff, but I was completely lost, and I was like just hung up on the revelation, like wanting it to come back, you know. And and Ted helped me, like really, Ted helped me snap out of that. And I was really grateful for that because it started a new phase in my progressions or in my lessons and stuff like that. So, and I think somebody else said, tell the truth. After revelation, I told the truth, and it was ridiculously troublesome. Right? People don't like the truth. I don't even like telling the truth, right? But it was like my throat chakra thing or something. I had to tell the truth all the time, and I was not cool to be around. You know, people did not like me. And that was part of the integration. You know, I have to be able to tell the truth, but in such a way that it doesn't just like freak everybody around me out, you know. So God, that is a strange thing right there.
When you said you have to tell the truth, when you were telling the truth, was it like a judgmental truth, or was it just like some other truth that you were saying?
It occurs to judgment. It occurs as judgment to people, and that is the problem. You're not really judging. You're just saying, "Oh, well, you're lying. You know, you lie all the time." And to them, it's like, oh my God, you insulted me and you're saying I'm bad. And I'm just like, no, I'm not bad. You can lie. I lie all the time, right? Like, I don't like intentionally lie. There's some people who intentionally lie. And I don't know if it's different to intentionally lie versus like I just lie to myself that I really think I know how the chair should be arranged. Like you could do it at any given second. I decide the weather should be sunny instead of rainy today. Like that's a total lie. So, you know, the people who just like couldn't stand that would either hate on me or they'd bail, you know. But no, I don't have the capacity to judge, right? So I thought about that. It's funny that you prompted that. I thought about that as like something to talk about today. There's a word, the word wrong is in the Course. And then like they're like, don't judge and don't, you know, what the hell? I was like, what, why, how could wrong in one case be a judgment and in another case just be 2 + 2 = 5, right? 2 + 2 = 5 is wrong. Obviously it's wrong, but it's not, there's nothing bad about it. There's nothing wrong about it. It's not going to hurt any, you know, it's not a sin. You don't have to make up for the sin. You don't have to go to jail because 2 + 2 is 5, right? Well, in the dictionary, there's 2 definitions of wrong. There's wrong bad and there's wrong false. And once I found that distinction, that helped me to understand. Now, I don't think Wapnick, I don't think he was big on that. I think he thinks they're both the same, right? Because he says, you know, just to breathe is making a judgment. And that isn't how it occurs to me. So how it occurs to me is more like in the manual for teachers, how to relinquish judgment. This thing is good and that thing is bad is how I see judgment, right? And I think I know what's best. I don't know if I should have chocolate or vanilla and I just have vanilla or chocolate, but I don't hate vanilla, right? And I don't think having chocolate is bad for you, and I don't think ice cream is bad for you, like those things. Do you see what I'm saying? So until I get over that hang up that you should not lie, I can't tell you that you're a liar without you getting a judgment out of it. Do you follow me? So I talk to people all day long and I say, dude, you lie all the time. And they don't freak out on me because they know that I'm not judging them about being a liar. I don't think that it's wrong to lie, right? I don't think it, okay, so wrong is, right, the wrong word. I think it's false to lie, but I don't think it's bad to lie. And you can dig on that little hole if you want.
Yeah. Anyone else got any questions? I might have another one in a minute, but I'll let anyone else have a chance to say something if they want to say something or have a question or comment. No. Okay.
Yeah, no,
So,
I have, but I've just got to sit for a second and let it percolate.
All right, I've got a question. I'm not sure how good the question is, but it's a question I was thinking about before. When you're doing the lessons and you say that, you get like, then it'll just something will just snap and you'll get it, right? Have you got examples of like, is that like when you're talking about your dreams, like one night you have a dream about a rabbit and you get eaten, and another night you have a different sort of dream? Is that sort of how that sort of things happen? Like you get a lesson and something in your life would be different, or something you'd see a different change? Is that what you're talking about?
I would say that, I need to say this lesson because it keeps like, Holy Spirit keeps like, above all else, I want to see things differently. This has a lot to do with the theme of today's group, as far as I'm concerned. But I can tell you like an interesting one before the light episode and before that first light episode that I was talking about. I come to find out I'd have a whole bunch before from reading the book, but like that was the first one that like really was the way it was, right? But early in the lessons, it was so strange. I started to see everything had eyes. The walls had eyes, the grass had eyes, the trees had eyes, the other cars had eyes, the like driving down the road, like the cement barriers were looking at you, like everything had eyes. In other words, everything was looking at me. Everything I don't know how to explain it, but it was conscious. It's so early on, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. Well, how that was working out for a while was those eyes, because I was trying to get communicated to me that the things are consciousness, that the things are ideas, right? It was trying to be communicated through my like dark glasses that everything was alive, everything was conscious, everything was an idea, it was all part of consciousness. And that was an interesting thing, and it really was actually pleasant for me because I formed a different relationship to everything when I saw that it was conscious. I saw things as things, and I saw alive things as alive things, but not after that. Not after seeing that for a while. I don't see things as things the way I did before, because I know that they're me. Like after Revelation, it's obvious that they're you, But before that, there was one of them, and then what are some other lessons? I could elect to change all thought that hurt. That's an awesome lesson, right? For me, because I realized that that if I am hurting, if I am suffering, then I'm playing with a thought that hurts. I'm playing with a thought that hurts me. If I hurt, I'm playing with a thought that hurts me. I'm generating my hurt, right? And the cause and effect are not separate. The fact that I'm holding that idea is what's causing my results, right? It is what's causing my suffering. Any other lessons? The I'm not a body, I am free, like that didn't really like kick in until probably the third year doing the lessons. So like it was just like a nursery rhyme or something for the first couple years. So that just didn't like really land at all for a couple years, And then Today, like that just is an obvious thing for me. I don't know how to say it. It's like, I know how to tie my shoes. I know I'm not a body, I guess. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's so funny because this is another thing. It was so funny because of all the mystical blowaway situations and everything. Like that transition was so fun and so wow, acid trippy, and but then like soon, like as they integrate, it's just like the way things are, right? Um, and maybe that has something to do with things working out, like that has something to do with things working out in the world or in my life. I think people have trouble. Uh, I think people have trouble learning lessons from people who are on the street, right? Like, here's this street guy. That guy could deliver some "I'm not a body, I am free" to you like no other person in the world, but you just walk right past him. A lot of people will, right? They just don't get why that person is in front of you right then and there, and why we're all sitting here. It's like, I don't know. Some rambling.
It's all right. It's good rambling, Clint. Annie, you got your question? Have you ready?
Yeah, I have, but it's really true, that thing with guys on the street. Like I had someone the other day, like, come up and just, it's like he recognized me. So he's obviously, vision is active.
Yeah, he's there for a reason. Everything's there for a reason.
And it's like I say to a lot of people, like I have a friend and like, these poor guys. And I said, look, they can be in much better situations than you. They can be in total acceptance and total joy. They've gone to rock bottom, a lot of those guys, and their mind's been freed of all the stuff that, we're still, or you're still holding on to, that you think you need, that you think you are, that you think freedom is. So what I was going to ask you, Clint, is, so in a sense, what's sort of happening currently? Like, are you sort of shown now, like almost like lessons that you're entering into now? Because there is, like, there's the forgiveness, and then there's, the revelation, and that the integration of that. But then, the lessons keep coming in other forms, which, who knows, that is better, learning to listen. So just for you, do you sort of get like almost like a setup of things that might be going to unfold for you in your learning now? Or are you currently aware of I don't know how to say it, but yeah, if there is a particular sort of thing you're learning at the moment?
No. So for me, the trigger is always what I see. Look, if you're in joy and you're having happiness and like everything's just going, like, I don't mess with that. I consider that, to be in harmony and in unity, and I'm listening to Holy Spirit and everything's jiving, right? But if there's the slightest irritation, and it used to be like get hit, I had to get hit with a baseball bat. But I broke my foot, so touche. I think the slightest irritation, I will then like immediately catch it. Now I think this is in the Sermon on the Mount when he's talking about throwing the seeds on the street. They don't grow, but if they're thrown into a fertile ground, they'll grow, right? And if they're thrown into the thistles, so he's talking about throwing these seeds in all these different places, right? Well, the deal is, there are seeds that are like Jesus will give you, but there are seeds that are like you don't want to gain root in your mind, right? And you can tell those. The Course tells me that I can tell which mind I'm listening to by the way I feel, right? So if I pick up one of those ideas that slightly perturbs me, I mean slightly perturbs me, then I immediately look at it and take it right to Holy Spirit. So I don't know, like, after time was like 3 to 5 years, like really hard lessons, like really slamming me and really mixing up what I thought time was and how it worked and all this stuff. And like I couldn't understand any of it. That was like really the last lesson that was like this obvious lesson that I was completely confused about. This thing now, uh, and that went on for a really long time. So I'm gonna guess it's in the teacher's manual. I'm gonna guess right now I'm I'm at this thing where I give up. I keep what I don't want, or I keep what I want and I give up what I don't. Right? Like it's no longer hard to do that. It was very hard and very difficult and very painful for a long time. And luckily, it was heavily reinforced. Today, it's I don't really there's certain things you have to plan. Like we've got this RV thing that we're doing, and you got to purchase, like if you don't purchase the 2 weeks or whatever, you don't get to go there, right? So there's certain things, but I don't plan when I set those up. So like when the time hits me or when something prompts me, I just like do that thing. So I just like it's like a lot of just doing the next thing. And I can't tell you if I know of a larger theme today. I know that it's repetitive, so that's like a teaching when it's repetitive like that. But I don't see any larger lesson today that I'm going through, and it could just be that fourth stage or something like that.
It's really good to hear. I don't know any awakened mind that doesn't say while you're in the perceptual experience you have to be vigilant for the kingdom. But it's almost like that thought, if it does enter and it starts to be believed, they're onto it so quickly.
Yeah,
because you're not got all those other competing thoughts and stuff going on too. It's seen very, very quickly and dispelled very quickly now, whereas once upon a time.
Oh, they like like physical pain took like a week of 16-hour days surrendering, just like solid, did nothing but surrender that. And then finally something happened that altered my relationship to pain.
Can I ask a question about that, Clint?
Yeah.
Can you speak up a little bit, Annalee?
Can you hear me better?
Yeah, that's better.
What are you actually doing or saying while you're going through that surrender, that 1 week of surrender? Are you saying prayers? You're asking, what are you up to with that?
Yeah, actually at that time, I used Sedona method a lot. So Sedona method has 3 questions. Could I let this go? Would I let this go? And when? And then just like do it over and over and over. And so like, could I let this go? Yeah. Would I let this go? Well, I don't know. It's part of my identity. Maybe I don't want to let this go. And when and now, right? And then each time I would try to turn it over to God, or just visualize it going away, or just, a week of 16-hour days, you flush it down the toilet one time, it goes away with a flock of birds. You hand it to God, you give it to the universe into a black hole, like all of these different ways of letting go of, because it's a grasping. It's 2 things. First I get a resentment against God. First I reject God, and then I hold on to that rejection. So first I judge God as wrong. He did it all wrong. I know how to do it. And here's my little rejection, right? So my body's in pain. God shouldn't make my body be in pain. I'm going to hold on to this because I don't think my body should be in pain, right? And so could I let go of thinking, but I didn't know when I started with like surrendering my body pain. I just wanted to let go of pain, right? So I didn't really realize that the pain was there because I was rejecting. So I was just like, I want to let go of this pain. I'd been in a car accident, like somebody else had mentioned, and so I had pain, like chronic, and I just wanted it to go away. Well, that's a rejection. in the end, I loved the pain and it went away. But the method that I used was Sedona method. Could I let this pain go? Would I let this pain go? When? But, you know, for 7 days, it was because I thought the pain should go away, because I was rejecting the pain, because I had judged pain, right? So the answer was on the seventh day, at the end of the day, on a Sunday, strangely, the answer was that I was rejecting the pain and I needed to love the pain. And today I know that's what I call it today, love pain. And it goes away.
Thank
Rambling
you.
again.
Yeah, and I love what you said about, you know, it could go away with that flock of birds or, you know, down the loo or whatever. That's really cool. Thank you.
Well, your rambling was really helpful for Heidi. She was really happy to hear about, you know, it sort of confirmed her use of the Sedona method. And I'm not sure, have you frozen, Clint? I think he's frozen.
Are you guys there?
Yep.
Yep, we're back. We got you.
My power went out and like all of the battery alarms and everything were going off, man. What are we doing here?
Did you have a question, Alice? I wasn't sure because I just saw you pop up there.
Yeah, I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say hi and just was looking at tarot decks. So are you at all interested in tarot? My friend was telling me about how all the deck that uses the sword cards, they're to do with mental thoughts. They're the only cards in the deck that tend to have a bit of negative connotation, whereas the cups are all emotional and there's no negative connotations in the cups. I just thought that was pointing towards that it's like our thoughts that create our reality rather than our emotions. I don't know if it's relevant.
Yeah, I could talk on that. Am I separate from the cards? I'm not separate from the cards. Are we watching a replay? I'm watching a replay. So the cards are always that way, and I'm not separate from the cards. And the card that shows up is the card that should show up. We might say it's all part of God's plan. It's part of God's plan. The card didn't randomly show up. The card showed up as a result of like the entire universe, the whole past and the whole future. But I would have in the past seen cards as having negative connotations, but I don't see that anything's negative today. So the card might say, well, you know, you're going to be sad for a little while tomorrow, or the card might say you're going to get a bunch of money, or the card might say you're going to lose a bunch of money. But none of those are bad. They're all for my best interest. None of that is separate from me. And that's the way it was always going to go. And that's all part of God's plan for my salvation. So I might see it, I definitely see it differently than when I used to see it before. And I don't know if that means anything to you. And then as far as emotions go, emotions are just a result of the idea. So if somebody were to tell me I'm going to have emotional next week, I would know that means that I'm going to pick up on some false idea, or I'm going to judge something. I'm going to judge something amiss next week. If I were to believe that was going to be true, right? So I never, I haven't been sad. Like I don't even remember the last time I was sad. And not like I don't try to be sad. Like I like actually try to be sad. Like my cat died and I like tried to be sad. But I like instantly went into reveling and loving that cat and who that cat was so much that like I couldn't be sad anymore. I was honoring the cat too much to be sad, you know. So I don't know if that makes sense. or if it mattered.
To me, that makes perfect sense. It's like a conversion point in your mind. It's like that old memory, and then your thought system, your mind's been so trained, it immediately turns it around from the old thought system of loss to the gratitude of the remembrance of the love that you share.
Like, strangely, the cat thing was while I was learning about time, and I realized that the whole cat was always there, right? The cat was this part of the movie, and I knew the whole cat, right? Like, that's who that whole cat was, and it was never going to be. That was the amount of cat in time was its description of its isness, of its identity. I don't know. It's starting to sound like Ted. Did that make sense?
Yeah, but you only took like 2 minutes to say that instead of 2 hours, so you've got to
Well, I'm the boiled down guy. Remember, I'm the math guy, so I boil everything down.
Clint, I've got one last question. That's sort of a two-part question. You may have already answered it, but when you say you take stuff to the Holy Spirit, what does that look like? And when you get guidance these days, what does that look like?
2 different ways. I was one of those people who couldn't see or couldn't hear the voice for God till I could, right? And the first time it showed up on my computer. I was able to like just suspend my whole mind and like say, okay, you talk. And it showed up as I could dictate, on my computer. I can dictate to the computer and it would type it out. So I still actually do that. I just put in the date and I just prompt, whatever I'm afraid of or whatever I want to know about or whatever. And I just kind of like wait for it to start talking, right? And since I've fully surrendered and I don't care what it says or what the answer is or anything, basically the words just start coming out and I don't know what the next word's going to be. And I think that's pretty cool because it takes like my sense of identity or my ownership of it or my me out of it. So I feel that's like allowing the universe to do it for me, let's say. But I understand I'm not separate from the universe, so I know it's a trick. It's my own. The Holy Spirit to me is just like my own right mind, and so I do it that way sometimes. But if more often, I will take like I'm upset and I'll ask Holy Spirit to like help me forgive this or let me see this differently or show this to me differently or like today, even before this meeting, I asked Holy Spirit to like hey, you run the show, for this meeting. I don't know what I should say. I don't know what it's for, and that's another way that I do it. But the dictation one is like kind of interesting because it's never been wrong. It's really funny. Like that dictation thing like predicts all kinds of crazy stuff that I think is just like no way. And it's always right. And I think Helen had that same thing when she was dictating the book. She said, well, we'll just take these things down. If it's ever wrong, we'll just throw it all out. And I kind of understand that, because I like the Holy Spirit. I still have suspicions that I'm lying to myself sometimes when I listen to the Holy Spirit or I do the dictation or something. And if it didn't know every single time how to make me happy and how to see it differently so that I was happy and how to see it differently so everything worked out and I forgave everything. If it like wasn't able to do that ever, I think my suspicions would be founded, but it's never done that. It's been a long time.
You'd prove yourself right about the Holy Spirit.
I guess. I don't know. But let me tell you, when the Holy Spirit first started talking, I didn't even know that the book was about I'm supposed to hear this voice talking to me. Like, if you had told me that when I started reading the Course in Miracles, I wouldn't have read it. I would have said, you guys are schizophrenic. You're out of your mind. No way I'm reading that. Like, that's crazy, crazy talk, you know? But when it happened to me, then all of a sudden, like, it clicked that was supposed to happen. And then it told me all the places in the book to look, right? It told me all the places in the book to look and see. And I went back and it was right. It was like, it told me every single place, you know, the voice for God, like everything it said about the book, which I didn't even know was in the book. It was amazing, you know. So.
You know, that's really cool, Clint. It's like the perfect setup. Like you said, if you had have known that was in the book, you would have gone, you know, oh, that's crazy, and maybe chucked it out. So it's almost like it didn't happen until you were really ready. You didn't even see it there until you were like ready to accept it.
Then when it started talking to me, it told me every single page and every single quote, and all of those quotes were in the book, and they were all right where it said it. Well, I was like, what? How did I miss this? So yeah, I thought it was nuts up until it happened to me.
There's a question asked in the chat box whether Clint does one-on-one sessions with people.
Sometimes. I usually talk to people like on Facebook, hook up, get Annie, and I'll talk to people all the time. But yeah, sometimes I'll take a call.
Are you on Facebook?
Yeah, Annie can give you my name on Facebook, and
Okay, cool.
I'll friend you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. And I'll take telephone calls. It just, you know, if I'm guided. I don't do it regularly, but I will answer chats like all the time.
Okay, has anyone else got any last questions for Clint?
You know, I really feel like Clint is a wealth of like untapped, unmined exploration that we really could sit with for quite a long time, but the stuff just isn't coming up in me at the moment. GK, have you got anything? Like, I don't know whether you're still there. Maybe you're driving or something too. Or Teresa, anything coming up in you that you'd like to ask too?
I'm actually good. But Clint, thanks so much. This has been wonderful. I've been listening on and off, but I'm in the middle of painting a room right now. But it's really wonderful. I'd like to talk to you some or something like on the side because
No problem.
yeah,
we hang around all the time. So.
Yeah. We chat back and forth, but yeah, it's been really eye opening, and I definitely hear your heart coming through. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tessa.
I just want to say thank you, Annie, because I'm just at a point. Sometimes it's hard, difficult to kind of, explain what the experience is, but I've post Nikki's talk, and I had committed to doing the lessons. And I was saying to someone yesterday, a lady I Zoom in South Africa, because we went to Israel together. I was in that group. And I said, I'd just done lessons 31 to 40, and I sort of came out shaking my feathers in a way of speaking, thinking, and Carol Howie describes it. She says, and it says in the lessons, well, now we'll leave the egoic part of the line and have a little bit of light come into matters. And I'm sort of really going through the rhythm of the lessons, which I hadn't before. They were just something, they were sort of words I was trying to sort of, the terminology. And so there's sort of quite a bit going on, but I think for me, I'll take Clint's talk today, and I'm a person that needs to take away and just sit and reflect and, chew over it. So, and it's interesting listening, I was listening to Kevin's questions. And so it's really part of the ongoing process for me at the moment. And I think for me at the moment is the fact I can sit with the group and not get upset or distressed that I'm not where everybody is, And all this is just, it's like I've been given this platter of fruit salad and I can take what I want, and at the pace that I'm able to do it at. And I think that's like I'm calmer in my approach to the course. And I can, yeah, it's just really nice. It's sitting in a room. I don't have to put a lot in. Just being there is, you know, what I guess where I'm meant to be. But I can only say thank you for the Sundays, Annie, and thank you to Clint for this morning, because I think when I go back and listen at a pace I can comprehend, I guess is the only word coming to me at the moment, then the richness of what's been shared today will start to sort of be able to pick up on it. So can I just say thank you to Clint, to yourself, and to everybody in the group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Teresa. Yeah, I sort of feel a bit the same as Annie. I don't want to let you go, Clint, so, but we have to.
Yeah, I had a blast.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to do with that. We'll have to sit with that, Annie, and work out a plan. If you'd be open to that, Clint, yeah.
Yeah, like I love those, and you know, there was so much left unsaid, but you know, we have to compress it.
That's what I feel like. There's a lot more that can be, that you can say.
You got to hit the group where they are today, though. I don't get to say that.
Yeah.
Right. The group pulls something, and so I guess that's what it was. But I mean, you know, Ted knows, and you probably know that I see. You know, I didn't do a lot of course talk. I try to talk from experience. You know, even though I know the course pretty well, you know, and I see it since I don't use those words all the time. I get a different perception or a different delivery that people may not have heard before, like, or it's an idea. Oh, I didn't see it that way. You know?
Well, that's the beauty of it too, Clint, because, you know, coming in from that different perspective, it's heard, there's different symbols used that hit different people at different times. So that is the beauty. And I think that is part of the integration too. You're actually given different language so you can express it in all different sorts of ways. So it communicates in all different ways to seemingly different minds. That terminology hits them at that point in time. It resonates to help open something up and open the mind. So it's a real gift to do that.
It's because of my stubbornness, right? And because I only had certain channels where I could believe things, or things had to, like, if I got a lesson, I had to be able to make sense of it scientifically, or I wouldn't believe it. So that gave me this whole, there was, you know, I would get a light episode or road or something, and then I would have to like chew on it and figure it out in my programmer mind, and then I'd have this whole other way, but then I'd have somebody prompt me on Facebook, and they didn't know anything about any spiritual thing, and I'd have to talk to them like in everyday language to try to communicate it. So yeah, it's pretty cool that I'm able to translate it across languages.
And just for those who didn't catch that word, when Clint was saying a rote, it's almost like a download of a whole ball of information that sort of unravels, that you receive all at once.
You like unpack it. Like this, here's a scroll. A scroll of mathematical equations, and you got to unpack it all.
Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks, Clint. You've been an inspiration to me today. A couple of things that you said just really knocked my socks off. So, yeah, it's been great. Thanks very much, Clint.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's just been a pleasure to have you. And, yeah, if you're up for doing it again, maybe at some point, it would be great.
Yeah. And, I haven't done it for a while, since that CMC radio or something, so it's been ages. So I like to hear this stuff again, and the prompts really represents things. They represents whole worlds for me when you ask a question or bring the thing back up. You know, so it was great.
Cool, thank you.
I don't know if I can handle all the energy. Can you guys handle it all? It's like I blew out my freaking battery backup. Come on, give me a break.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening for you guys in the States, and happy Sunday.